Guilty Gear XRD Sign came out on the 16th. This is now the 19th that I'm recording this. This hopefully will come out the same day. Originally, I don't know what happened because I went to an EB Games, or at this point now a GameStop, to pick up a disc copy because especially with a game like that, you want to support the discs. You want to support the companies as much as you can instead of just buying it digital, which I ended up doing. Because when I went to the store, they said, we don't have a shipment, and hell, our lists don't even tell us when the hell we're getting it. I should have gone somewhere else to check, just to be sure, because I'm thinking, I know that even Sony themselves have said it's coming on the 16th, so I'm confused. And, afterwards, I just go home, and I'm looking up, and I knew that it wouldn't be up at that point. This is about noonish, and it didn't go up until maybe about 2 or 3 because none of the holiday sales for this week had gone up either. But I kept reading, Google searching, just thinking maybe it just got delayed a week because I've seen places like Amazon have the limited editions up until the 23rd, but then that's it. It's just the limited editions because they're short shipping up in Japan for all the stuff that they're sending down. So, but the game itself was eventually put on digital at about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's when I got it. But that was a kind of a confusing thing. But then again, I guess it's a game that most people wouldn't have assumed would have sold very much, which is sad because I think this is one of the better fighting games out there. And I just assumed that they just thought that nobody would want it. So I guess disc-wise, they were not really caring about it. And also just because it's on the 16th of December, which is just such a weird day to release something. It's like, you know that you're expecting not very many people to buy it, which is, again, sad to me because I really wish people would. But if you're putting it that late towards Christmas, it's 9 days till Christmas. At that point, the game's out. It's like, wow. you're really pushing it, but either way. But in terms of the actual game, I've got to say, this has been my favorite Guilty Gear since XX for the PlayStation 2. Because the way that they have changed the art style in this game has made it so awesome to look at. Like, just in general, like, they actually have, like, partial cutscenes for their entrances now, so that it really does feel like, you're playing this super cheesy anime kind of it's almost like you're watching the show, and then all of a sudden it just shifts into gameplay. It's really incredible, and the sets for the game are really, really well fleshed out. There's even one where I think you're on a moving train. I think it's Axel Low stage where you're actually on a train and it's moving and stuff. So like it's like a lot of games now where all the battle environments are always moving. It's not like it's just a still frame or anything like that. I don't think there's any interactivity with these stages on like a game like Mortal Kombat or Injustice, but there's a charm to each stage. It's not just, your regular, oh, this is a forest stage, oh, this is a lake stage, oh, this is a dark castle stage or something like that. They're all vibrant, they all have their own little personality and charm to it, and they're all unique. That is the other important thing. In terms of the gameplay, at first I thought it was a bit slow until I realized, no, I'm just bad at fighting games, because when I played the end boss of the arcade mode, and this is only on easy mode, this is already telling me how bad I am at fighting games, Ramlethal is her name, and she whipped my ass so bad that I literally didn't have a chance to think because she was comboing like crazy. Which told me that the game's not slow, I'm slow. So, I mean, it at first it does feel a little bit slow if you don't know what you're doing. Because, I mean, in the sense, like, it depends on the characters you pick, too. Some of them just feel slower because they're kind of meant to be that way. But if you know how to chain things together, like, you're constantly moving, you're constantly acting, and it's why it amazes me when I watch stuff like all the EVO tournaments where you just see people, like, I cannot imagine how fast they think, and they're just boom, 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 attack, 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 defend, boom. It's incredible to me. But in terms of the gameplay, like, it's as good looking as any Arc Systems Work fighting game is. I mean, obviously Persona Arena, BlazBlue, they've always done a great job of making every hit look really good, making it look really flashy and just over the top and exactly the kind of style that you would love. And as usual, too, the best thing about the game is the music. The music has always been really heavy metal, instrumental music. Now they actually have some legit songs in there, like full-on vocals and stuff. The menu music is so good. It is just a great acoustic riff, and it makes the inner guitarist in me just go, "Oh my god, I want to learn to play that so badly," and no one's gonna tab it. For those who don't know what tab is, tablature is the way that it's shortened up, and it's essentially, instead of writing musical notation, they just have 6 lines for the 6 strings, and they number off where the frets are that you got to play. So it's a lot easier to read instead of, if you're not classically trained. I actually was, which made, when I first started learning tab, I was like, wow, this is easier. Why didn't I do this first? But going back to the music, like, everything is, there is not one piece of music that I didn't like, and the best one was from the intro. That if you sit there in the press start button thing, and they play the intro to the actual for the game, and it's just like so badass, and so like that gets you hyped and ready to play. And I was so excited, and like my buddy Dan, who lives here with us, he stopped just to look it over because he realized, like, holy crap, what is that? That looks awesome. And it's the same thing with some other games that are like that too. When the music is really good, then you're suddenly going, okay, what's going on? And then with the way that the anime drawn style of this particular game is, it just fleshes it out so much more and makes it look even more cool. Because as a guy who loves anime, like, when you get to see like these really badass looking animations, the guys look really cool. The battle style is always very fluent and flashy. And then when you put that awesome heavy music onto it, instead of, what a lot of companies try to do, where they try to make it all orchestral and try to make it fancy, it's like, no, this is gritty, this is hard rock, and it just works really well for its theme, where it's meant to be this just badassery kind of crazy Japanese blending of things. It's essentially taking, Japanese anime and then just throwing Metallica onto it. It's essentially what Guilty Gear kind of is. It's because most of the names of moves and characters always have a relation to any sort of metal idea. Like, for example, I'll give you 2. Axl Low, obviously, Axl Low is being somewhat of an homage to Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses. And then I'm trying to think. I think it's Melia Rage, has a move called Iron Maiden, which is obviously a band name. And then Venom is a character obviously named by the black metal band Venom. And then my favorite, which has always stuck with me, was Kai Keith's special move is called Ride the Lightning, which is obviously a Metallica song. So, and that's just a couple examples off the top of my head. Like, I could pull up a list of just all these crazy, like, callbacks and, like, assumptions that people are making and kind of writing how it works together. Because Daisuke Ishiwatari, I think, is the game. Or the guy's name. I think that's the proper way. He is a huge, like, metal guy, so I mean, it's pretty obvious that as the guy who writes most of the music is pretty much like the figure behind this game, and it shows because all the referencing is off the wall crazy, and it just works really well. The game itself could have benefited from having a little bit more in terms of things to do. I mean, there's pretty much 4 things you can do single player wise. There's regular arcade, there's your regular versus mode, and then there's your MOM, which I can't remember what it stands for, but it's essentially like you just going for as long as you can and getting coins along the way that you can spend on stuff like cost. I don't know if it's more colors that you can unlock. I know you can unlock the older tracks from I believe all the old tracks are from XX. I think that's all the ones that you can get. You can also buy like icons for your online profile, not outside of the game, but just in the game for your player card that would get shown when you battle somebody online. And then I don't count the training mode as another one because that's every game has one, whether it's good or not. But the main thing that was intriguing to me was the story mode. Now, I loved Guilty Gear XX's story mode, even though that it was all in Japanese, which at that point when I played that game, I wasn't too big into anime, and when I was into anime, it was always English dub, so hearing all that Japanese was very unusual to me. What makes this so awesome now to me was that they actually got English actors in. And I believe they did that for Guilty Gear 2 Overture, which was an kind of game. It was okay. But this game, has, full-on voice acting for the story mode, and minus the primary villain of it, Bedman, and even then I kind of grew onto it because I started realizing how the character is. because initially it sounds like it's a guy who had no interest in doing it and just wanted to get through it, because the way that Bedman talks is when you see the text on the bottom of the screen so you can read it just in case you don't hear it or you're deaf even to that extent. It's But when you do actually listen to the audio after looking at the text, it sounds like he literally just does not pause. And then you just realize that he's the kind of no-nonsense guy who is wanting to get through shit as fast as possible. So, like, just for example, if I spoke a line, so say, I'm going to go to the store. I don't really care about what's going on. I just really want to get this done now. There's a phone call now. Like, it just does not stop. He just keeps going. And I guess it's that frantic, like, psychopathic style where it's just, he does not give a fuck about detail. He just wants to get through everything as fast as possible, get the hell back to work so he can finish his mission, his objective. Excuse me. All the other characters, for the most part, I really liked. The two Valentine sisters, Ramlethal and what was the other one? Elephant or something like that. Both of them were they're quirky in their own offense. Elephant was, I swear, I'm gonna check just to be sure because I don't want to say elephant and then it just ends up being something stupid. But I'll talk about the other one while I'm at it. Ramlethal she's playing the kind of character that's meant to be like because we don't know their origins because they're not exactly human. We don't know if they're alien. We don't know if they're robotic. We don't know all that stuff in general, but she claims that she is built with no emotions. And it's Elfeld, not Elf. What the fuck was I thinking? Elephant. Jesus. But it's Elfeld. But Ramlethal, she speaks with, this, I do not have emotions. That is stupid. You are going to die now. And at first you're thinking, oh, it's one of these things, but it really brings it out towards the end, which obviously I won't spoil. But you start to notice like that change or even that confusion that she has as the game progresses on how one of the characters whose name is Sin tries to get her to laugh. Like just tries whatever he can to get her to laugh. And just how she just keeps like just back smacking him beating the shit out of him. Not literally, just with her comments saying, why are you doing this? Just stop it. But instead of, the way that I said it, she's going, why are you doing this? This is futile. You are wasting your time. But, Elfelt, she was when you have Ramlethal, her sisters, at least that's what they claim. As far as we know, they're both created from the same, like, idea, I guess the same, I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, like the same template and whatever they're for, whoever they are. But while Ramlethal has no emotion, Elfeld is your typical like anime bubbly pink-haired, big-breasted character, which in the way that the story mode works, actually I'll mention that in a second, but whenever you see her talk at points in the game, there will be they'll have two characters talking to each other, so they'll have what they usually, like when you usually play an RPG, like especially the anime-like ones, where they have the text bar and then they'll have the two characters side by side. When Elfeld talks, her breasts pretty much cover half of that box. It is so blatantly, it's like, hey, look at all this cleavage, because that's Japan in a nutshell. But I guess because I'm already starting to run up the time here, and I still have to talk about Dragon Age, the story mode is the most peculiar thing because there's actually no fighting in it. And I don't mean in the sense of like there's no fighting in the story. There literally just is no gameplay. It's straight. It's like watching an anime film. And I think I think I finished it in about 5 hours. I also took a couple of breaks. So I'm guessing maybe about 4 to 5, depending on. It could be even shorter than if you skip like a lot of text. But on it's very unusual to see something like that. But I applaud them for doing it because I thought it was great. I thought that was really interesting. Granted, had I known what the story was going to be, I would have played some of the arcade first because all the arcade stories take place, I think, before the actual events of the story mode begin. But either way, it's like, you know what? As someone who is a big anime junkie anyway and who really did love the voice acting in this, it worked out really well. And the fact that there was no fighting in it, maybe it was a little disappointing. It doesn't rate, like, it would have been nice to have the stakes raised at the end so you could fight. But then again, at the same time, when it's a fighting game, if you're really good, it doesn't matter too much. Whereas an RPG, you put a lot of effort into it, so that final battle is going to mean something because you clawed your way up. Whereas in the sense of a fighting game, you're just there and have at it. But on its own, the story mode I was really happy with. It was awesome to watch. I almost actually cried near the end because if I'm really am invested in something, and Guilty Gear is one of those few games that I have a lot of investment in. The way that story was running, it was like, oh shit, this is going crazy at the end. And unlike it also still has. I thought we were going to see more resolution to this because we finally somewhat get an idea on who that man actually is. And I just say that man as that's who his actual name of reference is in the game because they actually don't know his identity. I think we finally have not a full face, but an actual body to put on it and somewhat of a background. But then we still don't quite have an official name or anything else. So, but either way, like this, when the story ends, I was kind of disappointed because it just basically turned into sequel bait. And I was kind of disappointed because it's been a while since they've put one of these games out. So I'm like, man, like you finally put one out, and now you're still going to egg us on for a little while longer. How long do you think this game's going to run for? Because considering they spent so much time on BlazBlue and then Persona 4 Arena, you're wondering, like, with Guilty Gear coming back, you better hope that they're going to start putting out more games again, because it's going to be really disappointing if we have this huge cliffhanger on everything in this series, and then it just ends up being another 5 or 6 years till they put out another. But either way, because I don't give scores to things, what I'll tell you honestly is that if you have any interest in fighting games, this is a game you can't afford to miss. It's a game that perhaps you might want to wait for a price drop. But if you're into Guilty Gear, then get it now because it's totally worth it. It's got the best music I've heard in a while. It's got some really awesome art. The story mode is phenomenal and different from what we're used to. Because, I mean, Mortal Kombat was kind of like that new story mode where it was a full-on story rather than it just being, here's a character, go do this for a while, and then at the end we'll tell you the summary of what happened. Whereas in Mortal Kombat, it was the full-on thing. And same with Guilty Gear, except there was just no fighting. It was just it was like watching, a season of anime. That's what it felt like. So honestly, like, the way that I look at it, if you're a fighting game junkie, go for it. If you're a Guilty Gear fan, definitely go for it. If you're on the fence, I guess wait a little while, because with a game like this, I imagine the price will drop. Although at the same time, keep your eyes peeled, because I don't know how this game's going to stock on shelves very well. Because considering how it had a really late release date, and how I could walk into a GameStop and they had no fucking clue when it was going to be on their shelf, I would worry about that. But at the very least, it's on PSN and should be for God knows how long. So it's there, and it should always be there. So there's that.